Hey, friend, welcome back to Faith and Impact. It's your host, Dustin Hill, and I'm excited to dive into a story back from my high school days that's really impactful for me, and I hope it is for you. And there's a couple takeaways that I want to share with you, but let's just dive right in there. So, back in as a junior in high school, so that year, like the summer before my junior year, actually, I'd met this really awesome girl, and we had dated kind of off and on. We weren't really dating, we didn't want to be super serious, but we were really good friends. And so we'd see each other a lot, see each other on the weekends, see each other with friends. And so it was more of it wasn't a lot of dating, but we did like each other too, back in that. So maybe you can remember back in those days when we had crushes on people and liked them and all of that. But, so I got to know this girl really well. And throughout the year, we had a great time. But towards the end of the school year, we just had kind of decided that we weren't going to see each other anymore. For whatever reason, we kind of just decided that would be better. And so for me, this was really hard. Like I'd spent a lot of time with this amazing person, and we'd had a lot of fun together and done different things. And so this like one of my best friends was gone. And so it was a really tough time for me. And I just remember kind of being lost. Like I felt in a funk. I felt like I didn't know what it felt like to be happy anymore. It just seemed like, okay, here's school and here's these things that I'm doing. But like, there was just part of me that was missing this friendship that we had. And I remember just feeling for a couple months, just being in this funk and being sad and a little bit depressed and things like that. And it wasn't until something happened that changed all of this that I started to, go on a different path. And it's actually something that's interesting too, because I didn't even really notice it until later on in my life. And I look back, I'm like, wow, that actually was a pivotal moment in my life. And so what happened is, at my high school, we didn't have a drum line or marching band. We just, for whatever reason, that just I grew up in Orem, Utah, and it wasn't a huge thing in the state. And I think it's becoming more and more, but we didn't have a marching band in our school. And so I'd never really thought about doing band. I was already in band, but not a marching band, played drums growing up. And so I remember I was actually at the high school and I was just leaving. And I remember this was pretty close to the summer. Like we were about to kick things off in the summer and kind of go away from school for a while. And my band director, I remember standing out there by the door because the door to the band room was just right by the door to the outside. And so I remember talking to him right there and he's like, "Hey, Dustin, hey, I'm going to go to this other high school and I'm going to help, to do their drumline. And so you should come try out so that you could come and do that." And it was one of those things that like, I'd never really thought about it before, but in that moment I was like, yeah, maybe I should do that. And so I thought, okay, cool. Well, I'll go try out. And so I went and tried out. I ended up making it and I played tenors, which if you don't know, that's like where you have like 4 or 5 drums in front of you. And, turns out that's what I did a lot of the summer. We had, band camp throughout the summer and we went on a parade. And then towards the end of the summer, we were preparing for our competitions that we'd be doing throughout the year. And so it was so fun. And I kind of just forgot, right? Like that sadness and the things that like I was going through, they kind of went away because I was able to get in front of new friends. I was able to do something new throughout the summer and kind of forget about some of the pain and the things that I was going through. And part of that I think is the fact that for me, I think I was having a little bit of a pity party. I think I was saying, oh, like this is so bad and like, woe is me type of thing. And so it was harder for me to be happy. And I was just looking down and just like, okay, well, I guess that's just how it's going to be. Like, this is like, I can't do anything about it. But when I kind of got out of that shell, out of that mind of thinking that way and forgot about it and did something else, then I was able to start to, establish some new friendships. I was able to start thinking better things about myself too, and about my situation to take better control of my life and to be able to do that. And so it's interesting though, like I mentioned earlier, that when I look back on this, like it wasn't right then that I really even noticed that. But I started to look back, it was probably 4 or 5 years later. I looked back and I was like, wow, that moment was actually really big because number one, it got me through that really tough time that was hard. Who knows what would have happened if I just would have kept, that summer not doing anything and just being depressed. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure where I would have went. But then I look at where, it took me like that was my senior in high school, entering my senior year. And so I did marching band that last year and I just absolutely loved it. And so I was like, dude, this would be fun to do in college. And that's when I applied, at a couple different schools to be able to go and do drumline there too. And that's where I ended up meeting Amy. We met in the marching band, that one day at band camp. And so it was really cool to me that we were able to do that. And again, I look at this moment and say, had I not done band, marching band, I wouldn't have gotten to that point. There's no way that Amy and I would have met, during band camp, because I just wouldn't have done band. There's no way I would have done marching band after that. And so it's so interesting to look back on that and to see that. So to me, it's really cool that my teacher, Lance LeVar, that he was there and he was inspired. I really believe that he was inspired to help me, that, and to him, maybe he didn't even know that. And I was actually thinking about that today. I'm like, I don't even know if I ever went and said thank you for that. And so I'm going to do that today. But that's a couple of things. The two takeaways that I want to give for you is, number one, I just want you to remember that it's really important to just be grateful for the experiences that happen to you. So there's times where, I want you to take a moment to look at that and say, hey, what are things that have happened for me that have been like, oh, okay, this is something that I didn't really realize it, but that was a huge blessing. And maybe it was after a hard time, maybe it was during a hard time. But that's something that it's really important for us to look back and we can see those blessings. And that's something that I've really noticed for me is a really important thing to do, because sometimes we can forget all of the things that have happened to us for good, that we just are in this mindset of, oh, and everything is so bad or whatever. And so that's one thing that is, one of the takeaways. But then number two is that you never know when you're going to change someone's life. That's the thing that I think about, is how my teacher, Mr. LeVar, I really don't think he had any idea that changed my life. Like, think about that for a sec. And there's moments for you where I'm sure that you have actually changed the lives of others and you didn't even know it. And so I want you to remember that you are making an impact each and every day. Each and every day that you get up, even after you fall, that you are making an impact on those around you. And as you know, this show is all about faith, family, and impact. And so there's so many ways that we can do that. We can strengthen our faith. We can take action on our faith. We can, treat our family right. We can have stronger relationships with them. We can make an impact on them. And that's what I just think is so amazing about all of this. And so I'm so grateful for that. And I just want you, again, to remember that you never know when you're changing someone's life. And so it's important to continue to go and to continue to make a difference each and every day, because I know it can be hard. And maybe tomorrow I'll talk a little bit about getting back up when you fall down and some of the dark moments that we all go through and how do you get through those, and how can you continue to push forward. But I know it's like one of the biggest things is just for us to get back up and to keep going. I like to think of, this life as a race that has no real time limit. Like the biggest thing is that we get back up and we keep going. That if you stop and you don't get up, then that's when you lose. But as long as you get up and you keep going, then everything's going to work out. And so thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And rate and subscribe if you haven't already. And